part 2 of Shakespeare's secret playhouse, The Rose. Some of the greatest playwrights in history premiered their works here, like Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Kidd, and William Shakespeare.
What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet.
Do check out Londonist.com for part 1 of Shakespeare's secret playhouse. And when we last left the Rose, the archaeology was under threat from demolition to make way for a new office block in 1989. Luckily, a team of bona-fide heroes banded together to save the Rose.
We wanted to draw attention to the site with many actors from at home and abroad. I remember Dustin Hoffman was there, Irene Worth, and many others, but Vanessa Redgrave was one of the leading organisers. And there was a big concert, the climax of which was a recording organised by his son, Richard, of Laurence Olivier, who was ailing and at home and not able to attend.
Can a muse of fire exist under the ceiling of commerce? Please, help us stop the second Elizabethan age from destroying the glories of the first. Cry, God for Harry, England and the Rose.
Yes, it was a dark and stormy night, as they say, and a lady came along the ranks of the protesters with a tea trolley and handed out sticky buns and tea. And this lady was Rosemary Harris, Aunt May in Spider-Man, classically trained actress with a wealth of experience looking after the protesters. And, you know, that's, for me, that's something that I will never forget.
The big day came, I suppose, when the bulldozers were due in to put in the basement of the new building, which has now been built. Dame Peggy Ashcroft and Dame Judy Dench occupied the site in their deck chairs with others of us. At the end of the day, Mrs. Thatcher's government had not only backed down, but gave £1 million of government resources to continue the dig.
Once we'd actually found evidence of the Rose, theatre historians, actors, directors descended on the site in great numbers, and that did enable the museum to get more and more time and more money from the developers, so that most of the site that was threatened by the development could actually be dug.
It changed completely. Archaeology was pulled into the planning development process, and the idea was that rather than having a situation where you could get an internationally important site like the Rose just turning up during building work and causing an awful lot of trouble for the developers, there would be archaeological investigation, exploration before development happened. And if there was important archaeology, it would be preserved in situ, as the Rose ultimately was.
Today I was doing the monitoring test that I perform on a monthly basis at the Rose Theatre, looking at the water quality through a series of pipes which drill down into the archaeology. Piezometers is the technical term. And then we're measuring a series of parameters with our portable workbench that we establish here once a month. We need to make sure that the site is just right, not too dry, not too acidic, not too alkaline. We want to see that the remains are in good heart, and so we've got 2 electrodes in a sample of water that we've taken. We've purged the tube, this is sample M, so we've got rid of the water that's been standing there since last month. This is fresh water that's percolated through the system in the last 5 minutes or so. And these 2 devices here are ticking away. Any value in the minus figures is good because it means it's depleted of oxygen and we're in a reducing environment, and that's exactly what we want. It sounds odd, we need lots of oxygen to breathe, but also lots of other things need lots of oxygen, such as soil microbes. And if they can thrive, they can eat the theatre, and the last thing we want is Shakespeare's theatre being eaten by microbes here.
And now the Rose lives on as a major theatre and heritage site.
Magic. People, what they usually say is that the scene brings the space alive, because when they come in, they see the video, they hear an explanation, but then when they see action, it's like, okay, so this is the Rose, this is a theatre.
Rose's importance has attracted a veritable army of volunteers, actors, and experts.
My name is Caroline, and I make costumes for stage and screen. I incorporated a bit of my work into my volunteering, and I teach people about Elizabethan dress.
Just fantastic. The Rose's new generation of fans will soon be able to witness the completion of the archaeology with the Rose Reveals project.
An archaeological museum space that could be used for site-specific theatre, as well as understand and appreciate as much of the footprint of the original theatre as possible. To this extent, we created both a bridge across the site and a promenade which included a ramp down into the site, both close to the perimeter walls.
From its incredible history to its exciting future, the Rose is one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. If you're a fan of Shakespeare, theatre, archaeology or history, come along and save the Rose! The Rose was an open-air playhouse. That's how they did things in the Elizabethan age. So they could use natural light, obtain fresh air, and if it rains, they all get wet. Hey, I'll just see about this. Always be prepared, that's my motto.